of 6 of the CPL. Joining me today is my co-host King Louie, and our special guest for the week is none other than the administrative team for CPL's Ripped Panda.
Hello.
Howdy.
How's it going, guys?
So Rip, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the league? Why are you an admin here?
I was here way back when we remade the Discord server. I wasn't I'd only been around for like a month or two, but I'd already started developing bots. I think the first bot I put up was StatBot, which scrapes HTML from the website so that people can just their stat blocks. But I've come a long way since then. I've learned a lot about Discord and a few things about JavaScript that I didn't know before, and I think we have 6 or so bots. Not that the number of bots is good, but beyond that, I work with the website development team. We're trying to move away from my league in hopefully the near future and develop a new website to basically redo all of CPL's presence online. And beyond that, I have a background in game development. I went to college for game design and computer science, and so I've got quite a bit of experience in working on games in general. And while I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room, I think I have good input on the rules we try and bring to make the community more healthy. And I like to think I keep a level head when I need to mediate something. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I don't always get to play the most games. I've got a busy life, but I try and be around when I can.
Now, what's behind the name Ripped Panda? What is the? Is it? There's some meaning. There's got to be some meaning to it.
Well, I'll let you figure that one out.
Person that's like all yoked out and has like huge arms, or I don't.
Sure, we'll keep it PG.
Okay, what's first on the agenda for tonight?
Well, this week we got quite a bit of topics to cover. One of the big ones being the TCL's, their community's tournament grand finals are Saturday and Sunday, and it's going to be between Clan OP and Clan Sun Z. They've hashed their way, grueled through all these different teams, and made it all the way to the grand finals. And the times for those matches are Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It is a best of 3. If a third game needs to happen, the teams will hash out the schedule for that third game when it has to happen. But man, am I hyped for that event or what?
Sound like you're pretty hyped. Hey, can you just as a side note, can you put a link in the chat room to the, because somebody just wants a link to the podcast in like the main text chat room. Could you throw that link out there, Sarnith? Thanks. That'll at least Geronimus wants to.
Do we have rosters for that event? Who's playing on each side?
We do, actually. For Clan OP, they have, for representing Clan OP, I apologize for the stutter there, we have Rom, El Stretcho, and Lixie. And Clan Sun Z is fielding Blade 7, Harambe, and Philly Boy.
Okay, then.
It's a 3-on-3. It's a 3-on-3 tournament.
Yes, it is, and it has been through the whole time, and it's on a map that was made by Songadu, and it's a fully balanced map mirrored down the center, where players have a large ocean, an inland sea type ocean betwing them.
So this is the map.
This is the map with
the big favorite.
We. What clan are you part of?
Well, we in the CPL as the we, the greater we. Like, is the CPL favored to win this thing?
OP and Sun Z are both CPL clans.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying that the CPL is favored to win this thing.
I get it
so.
Now. So Clan OP has a really good team. Stretcho was one of the first people I grew to respect for war. He was basically enslaved me in my first game here. Lixie is like, oh man, he's done some pretty crazy things. Like the Night Rush in his last TCL tournament game.
Who are the TCL guys? Are they do they ever play on here? Would anybody on this league recognize any of the names of the TCL players?
Oh yeah, players are free to play in either community, and a lot of their players do come over here because there are some lengthened downtimes between games for them. We have a lot more people here, so more games happen.
So do we know who the CPL 3 guys are?
I'm sorry?
We know who the 3 that the CPL that not the CPL that the TCL are sending. Who's their 3 people?
Their teams were knocked out already. In the semifinals matches, their last 2 teams got knocked out.
Been going on for a few weeks. I think I'm recognizing this.
That was due to a round 1 game being delayed for 2 weeks due to schedule conflicts.
And we have the MVP Harambe, which he always keeps reminding everybody. Actually, he doesn't. I just keep reminding people that he's the MVP. He's in it. MVP of the CCC.
Either way, the game's going to be really close in both matches or all 3 matches if it gets that far, because all 6 players involved are highly skilled. They're great at team-based play, and Rom's Germany is terrifying, and I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, and we're going to see it. And now I wonder who's going to play Germany on the other side. We saw Blade do it in the CCC. I'm wondering if they're going to keep him on that or if they're going to pass it around.
Well, to throw a wrench into everyone's predictions here, I have gotten confirmation from both teams that Aztec will not be used in any of the matches.
Is that like they made a gentleman's agreement, or
yes,
they made
a gentleman's agreement?
Oh, thank God! I applaud this so much. Which, I think that'll make for a much more interesting than Germany Aztecs versus Germany Aztecs in a single civ wild card.
Let's take a moment here. I want to brainstorm this for a second here. Who's the third civ?
What do you mean? Who's the third civ? We've got Germany. We don't have Aztec.
No Aztecs. You have Germany. You have England. Who's the third? Who's going to be on the sideline?
Do you think England is like that big of a given for the middle?
The gold generation is just too good. You get double trade routes. That's part of the naval dockyard.
Hmm.
And what kind of map is this that they're playing on again?
It's a 3v3 based map, and there's a large inland sea between the players in the middle, and then on the side lanes, it's about 36 tiles across.
I think we could see Rome. Like we've already seen Rome in the tournament, if I'm correct. And while I don't necessarily think they're the best in terms of military for this map, I think that it might be a little bit delayed for that. They do have decent economy, and they've got those free monuments, which can help you early. But
I'm thinking Sun Z will win, not because I know that much about Civ, but just the intimidation factor of his MVP aura that Harambe has. It's got to be worth something.
This guy.
Intimidating. He's an intimidating guy.
I mean, another thing though, I think Rome's underrated. Legions on this map, those are free chops that your builders aren't having to do.
That is true, and then you could maybe do like a Musketman rush or something with them later.
But the Roman fortifications being dropped if you want to send a couple legions up to your Germany player, and you can just drop all these +4 fortifications down where he needs to defend.
That's true as well. That's a very interesting tactic. They probably they definitely have the time to pull it off.
Like I honestly feel we'll see a Rome, but I mean, could we see? I kind of want to say Egypt for the trade route economy, but I don't think it'll happen.
No, they might. I could see someone potentially replacing England with Egypt to try and match the gold generation, but I would still prefer England because you have the naval power as well, whereas Germany or Egypt really doesn't have too much besides their economic capabilities.
I look forward when Sarnath is going to be talking about when they have this dual tournament that's going to happen. Then you'll have to break that down too.
Oh yeah.
And I will be pretty much irrelevant, except for me mouthing off in the chat rooms. I will be mostly irrelevant in that tournament, but I'll be there.
Oh man!
Speaking of your dual tournament, right? Now it's not a tournament per se, but duels and those smaller free-for-alls that we were discussing in previous weeks, they've really exploded lately. Like, we've had tons of smaller matches kick off, a lot of duels. Heck, you even knocked down one of the top dogs.
Well, I was able to defeat Animation it was an all-peace game, so that's a big factor in that. And I got there was some good fortune in that he did and this question of whether it's a good mechanic, I think it's okay, but he did the custom thing where you get faster religion spread in your cities, but it ended up hurting him because it just spread my religion in his cities faster. So it kind of like it kind of just, and I'm sure you couldn't really foresee that, but yeah, that was really he really unwittingly helped me win by doing that civic. Whether that's a good game mechanic, I mean, I think it's okay. You say it's going to spread religion faster, then whatever religion's there should spread. I mean, I think that's okay, but I guess you could argue about whether that's a good game mechanic or not.
It's definitely a interesting one. It's not one you see a lot by any means. We don't.
Also, I think the biggest thing that helped me win. It's also kind of amusing, but I don't think he's done a lot of like religious. And when nobody does a lot of religious stuff, so he said he looked at the thing and it said 1 of 2, and he thought that meant half, like I'm halfway to getting the religious victory, but all it means is 1 of 2 civs, or it's not a you know what I mean? Yep. It's not saying how close you are, but he misinterpreted that. So that probably was actually the biggest factor in me winning. It was only halfway to winning, but whatever, I'll take it. I definitely think it's a lucky win, but I'll take it, and maybe it inspires other noobs to think they can take down a Titan. Even it's kind of like that movie with the little remember the Titans, and they were all getting crushed, and they were all saying like, one time my brother chickened out, like one time we did this, or let's think like one time we can beat these guys. Like it's like that. I'm hoping that other people can take some. Yeah, I'm assuming I'll probably never ever beat Animation again, but at least I had that one moment in the sun.
And you can always bring it up.
Oh yeah, rub the salt. Pull out the lemon juice.
No, I don't really bring it up in the chat room. But if somebody brings it up, I'll say like, that's cool, thanks. But I don't myself just go, because I feel stupid for me to be like, yeah, I beat him, because I know it's a certain scenario that I beat him, and there was a lot of luck involved. So I'm not really going to make a big deal about it. But if it inspires somebody, then good.
I mean, another thing that's been popping up a lot lately is there was a big debate on the whole raise-only option for city-states to be voted on, to where you couldn't keep them if you took them, you could only burn them to the ground. And that's really kicked off a lot, too. A lot more games have been using it, and people have said a lot of good things about it. They seem to think it's a lot more balanced, it's more fair.
Yeah, it's interesting. Putting it in the vote bot was definitely a step forward. It's like I'm not going to go putting every willy-nilly little vote in there. It might be, not only would it get annoying, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy for the community. But seeing the reactions to players and playing a couple of raise-only games myself, I can see both benefits and like personal cons. I had a game where I was completely screwed over by the fact that, like, yeah, I got 6 CS first meets, but I had to like invest so much more into expanding. I had to actually build a military to expand because I was so encroached by city states at the beginning of the game. But that's also a little bit of an edge case scenario. So I think for the most part, it seems like players have been enjoying it.
I just always kind of marvel at I understand, like, I think people focus too much on sometimes these little rules, and as like, and they'll say, oh, it's not fair that there's this rule, but then you're playing a giant FFA. There's going to be all kinds of crazy, unfair things. So I got a little confused at why people focus sometimes on one little thing when you're playing a free for all. There's all kinds of random stuff's going to happen to you.
I mean, I think it evolves out of this meta that has kind of evolved for some of the higher end players in the league, where they like take advantage of diploing out their neighbors, and then they just steamroll over CS to get that little extra boost in terms of simming, and all of a sudden they're 5-10 turns ahead of you for the next era rush, and then they turn on you, or they count on the fact that they could easily destroy you and continue allying you and take out someone
There's
else.
a bunch of, but there's city states all over the place. So, I mean, what's stopping the other people from taking a city state? And
I think it's more about limiting randomness. There's not always city states everywhere, especially with the way map generation works. It can definitely happen. I just said I had a game where I was alone by myself on a continent with 6 CS, and it was so sad because in a normal game, that would have been an amazing start. But I literally just I got to settle 2 cities. No, 1 city, my capital and my second city, before I had to start killing cities to like continue expanding.
That's just insane. And speaking of the map issues, right? Like how about all these maps that have popped up after the Nubia patch that rolled through, in terms of how odd and weird looking they are. Like I've seen on continents where it turned into 3 massive islands, which to be honest was awesome in my opinion. But I've been on these really weirdly shaped Pangeas that look more like fractals.
I'm not entirely convinced. Like ever since, like, for the last 8 months, we have gotten 4 patches, and we just every patch. I hear people say, "Oh, they changed the map." And granted, on the patch notes I was looking at right before the podcast, they did increase the value for lake generation, and I went and looked at it, and the way the number of lakes is determined is 1.5 times the continent count. So, I can't say that lakes are what are influencing like the map generation, but I'm also not entirely convinced. Like I did go immediately before the podcast, go save a copy of the map generation scripts, and next time we get a patch, I'm gonna open them and see if I can find any differences using tools between that they don't put in patch notes. But I'm not entirely convinced things are changing. Maps have always been crazy, and there's always been outliers.
Other thing is, and I know what I'm going to say is going to sound like heresy, I guess, but like, so is it very rare that like when somebody quits that they almost always get a sub? They almost never put an AI in his place.
Yeah, I don't think most players won't play with AI.
But I always think it's kind of funny though, because they could put anybody, like I could be a sub and I'm not even any good. Like I think a good AI will do better than.
Nope.
If it's got some time.
It's not just about if it does good or not, or how well it does. It's about the human interaction. And even with deity AI, it's not smart enough to come up with strategies that people, well, even as you seem to think of yourself lowly, but I think even you can think probably more strategically than a deity AI. The reason they're good is they get to cheat a lot of the time.
But I'm just saying, is it really that? I guess I just haven't. Is it really that awful if somebody takes over and it's 100 turns in and it's like a top level AI? Is it really going to be that disruptive? Because it's going to produce fast.
And the reason being is that if you've ever played with barbarians on, or if you've played single player, you'll know that if you're at war and you fortify like a warrior, a swordsman on a wooded hill across a river, the AI will bash his units into it all day and night while your archers just snipe all of his stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
I'm just saying people are be perfectly willing to put a total noob as a sub too, or they don't like, there's no screening price. Like who's going to sub? It could be, or it could even be somebody that doesn't even. I mean, I guess you would hope sub would be.
The players in the game have the opportunity to veto a sub.
Okay.
The rules say that we should try and find a sub within 25 skill rank, or might be 75. But at the same time, like if all the players are okay with it, it's fine. And it's basically it comes down to almost anyone is better than the AI. Now, if you're talking about like someone who is in like playing their third game coming out and subbing for Philly, who's in first or like 120 turns in. I'm guessing the system will work and we'll have the players in the game be like, no.
Yeah, no way. Like, but I mean, but that's another part of our community that makes it as strong as it is. We put all the power in the hands of the players, and in return, they get this community with enough structure, but not so much that it's like Big Brother syndrome. But they don't have to deal with quitters. They don't have to deal with playing with the AI all the time. They get to get away from all that and actually enjoy a game with people that aren't just going to quit randomly.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand the importance of it. I guess I don't really have a good solution to have a way where you could sort of sometimes leave the game with it. Yeah, though I guess I agree it would break down. You have to have kind of a strict no. Even if sometimes it causes frustrations, but I agree there's no good solution to have a moderate, like sometimes you can quit or I agree that wouldn't work either.
Going back to the maps though, like I do hear people talking about things going crazy. So do you guys think it's really high enough frequency that like is it high frequency or is it outliers that are happening? Is it the
These are all minority or outliers? If it's outliers, like in the last 10 games I've played since the Nubia patch hit, I can comfortably say, without going back to look at them specifically, that at least 8 of them would be considered outliers.
The other thing I'd like to see if it would, I'd like to see this gain a little popularity. Sometimes they would play like a free for all in a way that it's designed to be like a short game. Either you squeeze a tiny map or you limit the turns. I'd just be interesting to see some of that. Just a little more variety, not just every is like a 5 or 6 one that would go like 2 hours or an hour. I would just be. I'm just saying whatever. I'd just be interesting to see if people try that occasionally, just to.
Well, I mean, you could say, hey, I'm hosting a Renaissance start free for all or something. Make it start later in the eras, and it would definitely last long. It wouldn't last as long.
So do people tend to follow? Like, when you start a game, do people tend to like just join if they're on board, or does it get people join in and say, no, I want this kind of game, or I don't know what's the general prevailing. Like, if I do that, will people come in and just either come in if they want to play it, or will 3 people come in and go, no, we're playing this kind of game now? That's what I wouldn't know how it tends to.
It's a lot of it's up to the host. Like the host is allowed to determine rules, and we leave it up to the host to kind of lead the community into new game types. But there are a lot of game settings that we get, and I used to think of game types as Diplo Plus, and War, and now I'm starting to think more about like what if we do that Renaissance era start? What if we do a static map that most of us know? One thing I've been playing around with the idea of is just spawning a bunch of different maps in debug mode and looking over them, trying to find ones that are balanced, and then putting the list of seeds out somewhere and picking randomly from those.
Because that's the ultimate test. I think the very best player should be the player that can just play any map and win most of the time. Not just the map that everybody plays. Like the best player should be able to. You give him this map, and now it's C, and we don't even do and it's something that nobody plays ever. And then the best player should still be able to win that game. I think because they just know the game the best.
I think that is kind of what happens. Like even when you put Philly Boy, Automation, Esdeath, any of the players who know the game really well out there, like put them on Islands, put them on Fractal, put them on Pangea. I mean, I can't really think of too many other maps that they succeed on the static maps as well. It's proof that they don't just know one particular map. I mean, if the maps are as crazy as we're saying, then like they definitely the map barely matters at that point, or at least whatever we're saying the map type is.
And I definitely I thank Admission and all the good top players who have played me. That's a great thing about the league is that people are willing to play. Especially a duel is a lot easier. There's a lot less commitment. So I've had a number of people that I'm sure it wasn't that even necessarily that fun for them, and they played me in it because it's just a duel. So that's what's great about the league, is that people will play, a lot lesser players just in like a duel. So it's a really good experience when you go against a top player. I played a bunch of people in duels, and I had really no business playing probably any of them in terms of like a competitive
you can
match.
play any of them, and I mean, if you really want
But
to
it's
get
cool
into
they're
the
willing to
nitty
play.
gritty
That's
of
what I'm
it.
saying. It's cool that they're willing to play. It's like a good community like that. They're willing to play new players, and even if it's not really much of a game for them, they're still willing to, especially in a duel. They're willing to like just because it's like a short game.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it turns into a really good learning experience for the newer players, because if they're willing to ask questions and be patient and wait for the answers and try to work for the answers as well, a lot of our better players will answer those questions. Will tell them, hey, you should have settled on this tile, you should have been working this pasture, you should have gone for this resource. And, they'll answer those questions that people ask.
Yeah, so it is good. Like you've mentioned, that is good. I think everybody like CS has mentioned that. Like duels are a great learning tool, also definitely especially for beginners. Cut and dried what went wrong when you lose in like 25 turns. You can't really blame it on anybody else, and it's pretty clear what you did wrong but in a large FFA, it might not be as clear what.
Yeah, there can definitely be games where you just don't know quite what you did wrong, or if there was anything you could have done right to come out of the situation. And
I'm hoping
sadly, it often comes.
I'm hoping that I'll make this an ongoing segment where Sarnath and I play a game every now and then and talk about it, like a duel or some other crazy kind of scenario, and then we talk about it. He can give me crap about how badly I played, or I can delude myself in saying that he's afraid of me or whatever. But I think it could be an entertaining segment. Maybe we do in the future.
For sure, and honestly, going back to the whole teaching and learning thing, I mean, clans are starting to post their own internal events. Sun Z hosted a training event this last week, and it went absolutely phenomenally well.
They've been doing that for a few weeks now, haven't they?
Yeah. That's their second one that I know of. And they had asked me to come along and cast it because a bunch of people just couldn't make it. And there was a huge turnout in chat. The video recording of it's on my YouTube channel. It got over 50 hits the first night. It was insane.
Yeah, so that's great. That's great promotion for the league, and it's fun event for everybody. So that's and I know Canuck Soldier was put out the call for he wants, now that we got a little more he wants a little more if I understand correctly,
more clans. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have pretty much the three, right? We just have OP, AC, and Sun Z, right? Those are the
internally. Yes, there's also DI outside who has sent teams to our events in the past. TCL has sent events in the past, teams to us for events in the past, but they're not there. It's another server. And then I'm not sure if we have anyone else. We do have DI.
It's just those two externally for now. So we pretty much have 5 clans that participate at this time. But it would be really great to see more people pop up in the community to step up as leaders and guide people in their own way. Because when you see people, because when you have a massive hub that we have at CPL, and you have 500 to 600 active players from all over the globe, and you start seeing all these smaller communities pop up internally, like these clans, and you start seeing a lot of these players nurture and grow in skill a lot faster than they would otherwise, because they're playing in a tighter knit community. It's like being in a guild or clan in any other game. You're gonna pop up in skill a lot faster. You're gonna learn more.
Yeah, it's just easier. It's more like how people actually tend to socialize in smaller groups. Although Sun Z is getting pretty, we did have I'm part of Sun Z, and so I'm happy to be, and it did get a nice boost out of winning the CCC apparently for a bunch of new members.
Oh, I bet. Like, I was honestly expecting OP to win, and I'm still debating if I want to join a clan, but now I actually feel like OP has some competition in my mind.
I'm self-appointing myself as least valuable player in that tournament because I basically subbed in and basically
You
just
need some
had animation
confidence.
babysat me in the 4v4, which I appreciated a lot. So I think I was the least valuable player. I'm going to embrace it. It's okay. But I'm also the self-appointed mascot too of Sun Tzu. Not self-appointed. Apparently, a couple people wanted me, and I embraced it. There was talk of me getting a honey badger outfit and running around the city.
Wearing a big Sun Z shirt and a honey badger outfit. That'd be hilarious.
I guess a honey badger is a good mascot for Sun Z. Ferocious and no fear.
I just got this picture of like this giant mascot uniform honey badger with a Sun Z logo on a shirt, just running around the downtown area.
People, of course, having no idea what the hell's up because they don't know about Civ 6, and they're like, "What?"
That makes it a lot funnier, actually, to be honest.
So it gets on the news as like crazy person
that'd be
running
great.
around downtown LA with a Sun Z. What is Sun Z? What is Civ 6? What is that? Is that person on something? What's going on?
I'm gonna see this on Reddit and automatically know it's you.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
You're just gonna know it. If you see it, you just know it. You don't even have to look. It's me.
Yeah, we're gonna start a GoFundMe page to post your bail.
A GoFundMe page by the mascot costume you mean.
You know, if people from Sun Z are listening, you should probably start that page.
Somebody's out there. Somebody has a honey badger outfit somewhere in the world. I'm sure there's got to be a few.
Oh man! Speaking of amusing topics, though, how about this crap with being able to nuke your allies in game?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of it's definitely not intended, and it's a weird interaction that you can war your allies and not have to go to war, or nuke your allies and not have to go to war.
But there's no. I remember at least I didn't play a lot of Civ 5, but I'm pretty sure in Civ 4 there was a thing you could research to minimize the damage of nukes, sort of like a I don't know what they called it, but I'm not aware that there's any kind of mechanic in Civ 6 to do this or
Not that I know
to
of.
defend your
You can get there's
the-
ways to shoot down nukes, I believe. Like if you have high enough in the air things in the aerodome. Do you know, Sardith?
There's an anti-air district that provides minor nuke protection.
Cool. How often do the nukes come up in most free-for-all games?
Not most, but there was a game I played about a month ago, and 2 players hit nukes, and one of them was Germany, and the other was Aztec. And the scary part was the Aztec player was making the nukes faster.
I had a game about a week ago where Rom just had a killer Japan Empire, took over Germany, and at the end it was Gunslinger, or like just being really stubborn, not wanting to quit, and then Rom just started laying on the nukes.
Oh god.
And so
it's
did
great for
Cineon.
casting. Yeah, I think that's going to get the attention of it. Even like your casual fan would stop and take notice when they see nukes going off, and that's a good showcase for the.
We almost hit
fan.
nukes in the Clan Champions Cup free for all. We were 1 turn away from a silo coming up, and the game got called.
That just reminds me. What is maybe it's I think. Maybe you told me this before, but I forget why are those 50-turn multiplayer mods not, or at least not that I've seen. Maybe they were already played and people got tired of them, or what's the deal on those? Because they seem pretty fun to me. I've played them a couple times.
I haven't seen any of those. I played the Team Liquid, but that was more than 50 turns.
There is and you can. It's not just you could play free for all in these. There's one Ancient Rivals where you try to. I think you try to grab the most territory, and there's a nuclear one.
I think we'll definitely will see those kinds of game modes pick up pace, especially as the community grows and we get new influx of people who want to play different things. But for a long time, our community has been growing around our core competitive formats, which are I'd say the 6 and 8 man FFAs and a variety of team games. And one thing that is almost always true in competitive games and gaming is consistency between matches. Now, we can't guarantee that completely, especially because the nature of the game is for us to want a randomly generated map. But it's something that I think the community and the game itself tries to strive for. And
I just think they should get more love since, Ed Beach and the makers of the game specifically made these multiplayer mods. So I think us being a multiplayer community, I'm just going to create friction. We're basically just crapping on Ed Beach, saying like, screw you, you create your multiplayer mods and we're not even going to play them. And we're the best multiplayer league. And they're like, what's up with that? I think I'd be a little irked if I was Ed Beach. I think I have to play some of those just so he doesn't get pissed off at our league.
From the perspective of a game developer, one of the first things you learn is that you have to have thick skin. You have to be able to take the heat, and you have to expect that everything you do, there's going to be a vocal minority or maybe majority that is going to hate it. There's been a number of times in gaming history where developers did something the community didn't like, maybe at all ever, but often just initially. And
see the history of Blizzard Entertainment for more information.
Yeah.
I'm just creating strife for my own amusement.
People playing
Ed Beach is awesome because he did also apparently he fixed, or I don't know if he completely, but he made Civ 5 a lot better with especially the last expansion pack, and I think he's definitely made Civ 6 kind of like what people wanted Civ 5 to be is what I hear a lot. What we like the people that love Civ 4 and were disappointed. Now I think people still aren't aware of it, but I think that's what I keep hearing is that this is what Civ 5 should have been.
I definitely have a lot of respect for Ed Beach. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot about him before Civ 5, but he is not the only person behind the game. He's just the most notable figure. Now, that's not to say that I don't see his name on quite a few Lewis scripts when I'm coding the source code, but he's not, just because you program things doesn't mean you're always making the decisions. Just because you make the game doesn't mean you're always making the decisions.
Well, that's looking at Firaxis as a whole as well. I mean, their overarching boss is 2K.
Yep.
Hey, what's up? I think I was asking about, is it do their testers ever, I would think they must have some really great players, the testers. Do they ever come over here, or is it all just closed off and they just in their little testing
world? Non-disclosure agreements in that. It's very hard for them to even talk about.
Yeah.
So they couldn't come and play in the league while they're in development. I that makes sense. Okay, I understand that.
It's not always that. And although it may be in some cases, I'm sure, like NDA policies, non-disclosure agreements can definitely deter users, even if they're allowed, or developers, even if they're allowed to go play their games, from playing the game at all just because they get into situations as soon as people find out they're a developer, they're going to start getting asked questions and talk to you about the game. And it's not always a comfortable situation to be in.
I just wonder if they're they are testing it. So I wonder if they're elite players, as good as ours or better. I would have no idea because they are testing it for testing.
We've had a one of the testers for Civ 6 come to our community and just play a chill game with some of us on the admin team. That's happened before. There was no super secret squirrel talk or anything like that, but it was just a chill game.
Oh, was the person really good at it since they playing it all the time? Were they?
He was all right. We didn't get very far, or not far enough into the game to see him get to the end game.
They are testing it. They're not playing it to try to be great at the game. So
yeah, testing is a very different world. Often you aren't actually playing the game. You're trying to find edge cases, and so you're maybe doing things that players wouldn't necessarily consider optimal. able to try and find those extreme situations.
Or you're spending hours and maybe even days or weeks trying to recreate a scenario that caused a bug.
Doing the same thing over and over with the tiniest little variation. And
like I know very little about coding. Like I can read Lua script and the files for that, but I'm not really good at it. And just going line by line, even though Lua is pretty simple in terms of the coding world, probably very simple in the coding world, but you know, going line by line, it's very tedious. It's easy to lose your place if you're not paying attention.
And just as far as I'll ask Canuck Soldier a lot. How are we doing? Like, are we? We're getting closer to what the level of activity was in the Civ 4 days, but not quite. Is from what I understand. Like that was like the heyday, but then there was Civ 5 and there was a big fallout. So now we're basically trying to get people back into it that kind of jumped off of Civ 5. Whereas Civ 4 had Civ 3, it was just very smooth right to 4.
I mean, not only that, we're trying to attract essentially a whole new generation of Civ players at this point. I mean, it's 2017, and Civ 5 came out in 2014, and Civ 4
came out in 2010.
Did it?
The vanilla one.
Oh, I'm thinking Brave New Earth.
Did you guys play that? I don't know how old you guys. I played the original Civ way back in the
Civ
90s.
2 best Civ.
I never played a lot of Civ 2, but Civ, I still just because it's my first one, I still have fond memories, of course, of Civ 1, even though there was player, and I don't think it ever really developed. There was CivNet, but I think very few people got on CivNet.
No, not at all. Even when GameSpy was a big thing, like in Civ 3, when I played that, it wasn't super big on multiplayer. I guess there were pocket communities out there, but
I played a little multiplayer too, but it was so tiny of a. I don't think that ever really. It was 3 was the first one to have a real robust multiplayer, I think.
Speaking of Civ 2, hey Ed Beach, if you remember Civ 2, make Great Library great again. Look as I randomly get all of these texts. Yay!
And I always wonder how much does Sid Meier have to do with the games anymore? Like how much input is he?
Probably very little. He probably just gets paid royalties.
But the original one, it was like that was him, right? The original one was like a big driver, right, of the original one at least. I don't know about the ones
I don't know, to be honest. I'd ask Canuck that question, actually. I know he's been a huge, big guy for the Civ series since its inception.
Or at least he was. I don't know if he was. He was definitely a big. I mean, at least he was the face of it, and that was really. I mean, at the time, that was just like there was no game really like it. I don't think.
No, there was Masters of Orion 1 and 2.
And was it open-ended like that, where you could win all kinds of different ways?
Yeah. Well, you could win in one of 3 ways in Masters of Orion 2. And that was either you did domination, you destroyed the entire homeworld, or you got elected to be the ruler of the galaxy through the democratic process. Which you didn't do democratically at all. Like, you just muscled the hell out of people until they voted for you.
Oh yeah, this is a random. I'm sure. Have you guys see? I don't have personally a lot of like friends that I see in the physical world that play Civ. I'm sure you guys do. Have you experienced friends that are like single player guys, and you try to get them to multiplayer, I just wonder, like, what is the stumbling block to getting, or maybe you have an experience that trying to get a single player person to try or to get into multiplayer? What? Because I know there is
the dedication,
a lot of stumbling blocks,
time commitment. Like I have a couple people in my office that will talk to me about Civ, but they respect that like hey, multiplayer is a very different world than single player, but they're not willing to put in like 6-7 hours in one chunk if it takes that long. They want to play the game in like 2-hour chunks and over like 4 nights. And they're
bringing
content
to me. I'll play them. I will crush them in duels and teach them to play by dying. So just send them over to me. I'm ready. Play some short duel matches, or a free for all with 5 people on a duel map. Just like a rumble. Let's do it. 5-person free for all on a duel map, and it's gonna be like it's gonna be a quick game, but it'll be crazy.
I'd love to see a couple 4-person FFAs get going. Like, I like the idea of having a still similar to our normal version, something naturally not super far away, but that is much shorter.
So have there been? I know I mentioned that, like I hammer on that, like duels and small FFA, but I'm not aware. Have like Sarnath, have there been a number of some small FFAs happening?
There have been some, and they usually go unreported because they're just doing it for fun or just to have a good time. And the players that do it, I think it's great that they do that, and I honestly think they should bring that into ranked. Like, they should make it known in the reporting channels, be like, hey, look, we're playing small man free-for-all, so if you actually like that and you're kind of tired of 6, 8, and 10 man, it's out there. You just got to poke around.
Yeah, you just got to, I guess I can understand new players maybe sometimes shy to do a ranked game, but that's just what we do here, and it's just just one game. I think it goes away pretty quickly, and that what I understand is people hardly ever play unranked once they're in here a while.
I mean, honestly, like, we have unranked channels, we do, but no one ever bothers to use them. They say, screw it, I'll just go play ranked. Because more ranked games.
Let's have the one reset.
Like, yeah, exactly. Just like Rip said, you have a one-time reset for your stats. So if you're on this hardcore losing streak, you can be like, hey, tell an admin, hey, I'd like to use my my one reset. Sure, no problem. Done and done.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, being a low-ranked person myself, I try to focus more on just getting better, and I must have got a nice bump up. I think I'm like 350 or something. Most of that must have been from my crazy.
Louis gained 400 ranks by beating automation. Let it be known.
Well, I don't know what I was like 500 and something. I don't know, but at least I don't think he lost very. I think once he has so many games in that probably did nothing to his. So it's like a way it doesn't do. And it's not like anybody really cares. I don't think people are. I really doubt anybody's giving him crap that he lost to me in a game in mode he's never played. So I think it's.
Oh no, not anymore. But for the first 24 hours or so, definitely. Definitely,
really?
people were giving him a hard time.
But it's like a
as
game
soon
mode
as
that
it
he
got
never played
reported,
before.
as soon as you guys reported that game, the first thing in text lobby was an @league saying, "Oh my God, Louis beat automation in a duel."
But it's in like a mode that he never even played before, so it's not like a beat him in a regular.
Yeah, but most people don't know that. That's like the first thing they saw, and that kind of sent the fucking train down the hill. But I mean, all in all, it was in good fun, and Automation's a pretty good guy. He really is. And he's a good sport most of the time.
Yeah, he's a good sport about it, and like I said, you could argue whether that's a legitimate mechanic that
it is a legitimate mechanic. It's a double-edged sword.
You mean like spreading religion? Like if it doesn't, yeah, I think it's okay. But I mean, I could see what from his point of view, where like he is a little upset that he did something that ended up hurting him, and that's so.
Maybe
I don't know why you would select that if you weren't planning on going hard.
Why would you select what?
Why would he have selected that passive that made religion increase faster if he wasn't planning on going hard religion?
Well, no, I mean, he was. I think he was just trying to. Yeah, he was trying to catch up to me, but it just happened to.
I guess if he thought that you weren't affected by the passive, then he would be thinking that he wouldn't need to invest as much in his religion to make it get up to the point where he could defend religiously.
Like I said, I'll admit that the greatest. I mean, the thing that was the most determinant that me winning was him looking at the score and seeing 1-2 and thinking, "Oh, I'm halfway." That was really the most important factor that helped me. It was probably the most important factor. That he thought I was halfway there.
Shout out to all the players in the league on that note is, don't look at the score. The score is a horrible metric on measuring the position of players in the game. You need to look at more than that. You need to look at the science per turn, the culture per turn. You need to look at the tech and civic trees and see where their little civ symbols are to get a figure of where they're at in the tech tree. It's not going to tell you exactly what they're researching, but you'll know what one they're on at that moment.
I mean, it's off. You can put the puzzle pieces together. If someone has a specific strategic resource and they're on the same vertical line as a particular tech, like, you can extrapolate what they're going, which rush they're going for pretty easily a lot of the time, especially if if they have a good high culture per turn or good, like, what they're focusing can very well determine what they're going to go for. No one's going to go for Calrush if they think they have absolute shitty science.
That's something I think they give too much information, if you ask me. I liked it better like in Civ 4, and that like you had to research some stuff and get more, I forget what it was, before you could see anything. Like, and it was the more you researched of the science, or of like the diplomacy, you didn't just default to knowing everything like that. I think that would be, I wish they would change it.
I think that would be an interesting way to make diplomatic visibility a actually like interesting and useful mechanic in multiplayer, is like tie how often different stats update to how good your diplomatic visibility is.
It takes a little of the mystery away when you see like, oh, that guy's got a 400 military, or like I kind of liked it better. It was a little more surprised, like, oh crap, there's like 4 horse archers and I had no idea. Instead of like, well, the guy has 400, I know he's got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if I couldn't see military scores and I was friends with all my neighbors, I'm still going to build a small army, unless I can see all of their territory.
Could be maybe that's something that could probably be, is that something that would be modded without much trouble, just like making so you couldn't see that score screen?
Oh man, I think that's something that the community would not enjoy, honestly.
That would tilt the hell out of people. They're so reliant on that.
Like, so many people would love to have the kind of data that you get out of UI mods, but like I think a lot of that's taking it too far. I think what we have now is not too crazy, knowing like there's still a lot of mental work that has to be done to extrapolate the useful information. Just knowing that someone has 200 science per turn, yeah, that's scary, but you don't have any specifics. You don't know if they're going for nukes or modern armor, or like scale back. Someone is like 70, 80 science per turn.
Well, looking back to the older Civ games for a second here, one thing that I really miss being an option in the diplomacy was trading technologies and trading territory maps and world maps. I think that's absolutely huge, because being able to be like, oh yeah, well, I've been, everyone's talking about, oh my god, you have so many scouts, and the fucking diplomacy in the open diplomacy chat, and I'm like, oh well, I can trade you my world map. That's a powerful diplomacy tool.
Yeah, I think that was. But if I remember back in Civ 4, the trading text was usually generally banned when they would be competitive anyway. Like it was, because I think it was too easy to abuse. So I think that was usually banned if I remember the Civ 4 ladder games. If text was usually banned.
I can understand that it might be. It seems like it would be
maybe if you limited
in some situations.
Said you can do it, you can trade like 3 techs per game or something. But yeah, you don't want 2 people just going like boom, 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 and like teching up beyond, like everybody, and then just.
Didn't Civ 5 research agreements give you a tech at the end?
Oh yeah, they did, and the Civ 6 ones do too. Or no, the Civ 6 ones give you the boost.
Yeah, you get a boost. That's what you're trading in Civ 6 is the boost. And I think that's actually more balanced than.
Is it more popular? The FFA games are more popular. The ones where you can't talk to anybody.
No, but I'd say Diplo or Diplo Plus are king right now. I'd say probably like 20-30% of our games are war.
So
maybe not even that.
That was Diplo Plus means you can talk to everybody.
You're not allowed to send private messages in Diplo Plus.
That's what I mean. That's more popular than the one where you can send private messages, I'm saying.
I would say so.
You can't connive and sneak behind people's back. It has to be in the open.
Oh, and so in war
you can. You just have to do it in the open.
That's
war
a
you
whole
can't.
nother art
There's no
level.
talking at all. At all, even in the main room, there's no talking in war at all.
You're just not allowed to talk about the game, essentially. You're allowed to reveal information yourself as long as that information isn't like secondarily revealing information about opponents, because everyone is your opponent. And like if you're not allowed, you could say, I have a horse in my capital, but you're not allowed to say, I'm 6 tiles from that guy. You could say, I am 6 tiles from someone.
And then
Although
goes
even
full
that's
panic and
that's
makes
like
military.
super.
Is it a problem where if you're playing? I think even somebody said that one time they didn't want to go in the game because there's already too many of their clan, and it would look bad. Like if you're playing a free for all and there's like 5 from one clan and 2 other, like it would. Is that an issue? Sometimes people say there's too many.
I have yet to see that issue, but I can understand that feeling that you might have that someone take that perception on.
It
but
definitely hasn't popped up yet.
At the same time, I would say if you're about to get 5 guys in a Sun Z game, like, go take them to the Sun Z room. And beyond that, like, it's a free for all. Like, if it's 5 Sun Z guys and 3 non-Sun Z guys, like, are you those 3 guys really think that it's going to turn out into a 5v3?
It's definitely going to make them pin down any Sun Z player between them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that paranoia will drive them to fucking ignore each other.
I'm not aware that that's happened much. Maybe that'll go on. Like, I'm not aware that there is a lot of.
No, I haven't seen any of that happening.
Like, just Sun Z games going on. I think it's almost all out in the main.
Everything's really done in the central hub here in the CPL. And that's simply because, you know, we all love playing here in this community. We're all happy it's here. And if we don't, you know, if we're not all playing here, it doesn't look like there are games going on because everyone's off in their own Discords. So then we're going to start losing people. We won't get the new blood in. So everyone just plays here, and then if the clans host events, they host them out of their own channels, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, that's what the training match, of course, that was hosted just in the. I mean, that's a good example of it. The Sun Z, the training match. Getting some traction. You're still getting a good bit more hits on that in the YouTube page for the training match.
Yeah, some people are checking it out every now and then. I mean, it definitely goes to show that there were a lot of people that couldn't be there for work or scheduling, whatever, and they wanted to see it and they wanted to participate, and they were still able to because, you know, they reached out to me and I was able to provide that recording for them.
Can I skip around to the ask you anything question? My question is, why are you afraid to take me on in a duel, Sarneth? That's my ask you anything question.
Well, it's not that I'm afraid to take you on in a duel. It's just that it's really hard to first move when I'm rocking my 2-year-old to sleep.
That's true. That makes sense. We'll battle at some point. I think it'll happen.
Probably. Well, we'll both play France, Battle of the Worst.
Oh, man.
If you're out there and you're watching this and you're French, I'm sorry, send your complaints to Firaxis that your culture was the worst in Civ.
It's considered the Civ that people want to play the least?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Their bonuses are awful.
But the river bias.
I'd rather play, I don't know, Greece and have hill bias and infinite envoys.
Okay, you just went from the worst Civ in the game to the best Civ in the game.
Just saying.
Like,
a lot of their bonuses don't apply in multiplayer because they have that diplomatic bonus, but that doesn't have any value in a multiplayer game.
I don't think it has that much value in a single player game either, honestly. I don't really look at those notifications if I'm playing versus a day AI.
And what about spies? I think they could do better with the spy. I doesn't feel like spies are that.
Spies are very impactful if they're actually used. I remember back when Red Phoenix was still around, he bankrupted a player with spies, and he wasn't even at open war with the guy, and he was having rebel barbarians in his city is because he was bankrupt from nonstop gold theft from Red Phoenix.
So you're saying it's an underused mechanic in the game.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, like we've actually been having some discussions about them in the player panel because you can use them against your allies and friends, and is that something that we want to see players do? I don't think it's something that most players should do. I think it's a very unsmart move or non-smart move for most players.
I guess I have to learn more about it. Wherever I do them, I always just have one option. I guess I'm not researching enough to give more. I always just have.
No, it's not about the research. It's about what districts are in the city. You need to be able to scout your opponent's empire and plan where you're going to put the spy ahead of time and make sure you have vision on a city that has the right districts for you to do the actions that you want.
Whenever I did it in games, I never seemed to have the option to sabotage anything. I just got the same option of putting.
In order to do sabotage, I think they have to have an industrial center, because you basically do a unique action for one whichever district you pick to have the spy attack.
If they have a campus, then you can steal tech. If they have a commercial, you steal money. If they have an industrial, you sabotage. If it's a spaceport, you sabotage. Doesn't do anything to holy sites.
I don't imagine there's a lot of space wins either, are there? I'm guessing not a lot of space wins in the league.
I mean, there's a lot of like pseudo space wins, and that we call the game because someone has like 400 science per turn, and we just assume that they're either going to hit nukes and nuke the world, or build a spaceship, which is long before anyone gets to anything that can touch them.
And so, what do you think the average? Since I hardly ever do, what do you think the average length of a free-for-all game is on here? I really have no idea.
I'd say the shortest you're gonna get is like if you're. It really does depend on how good you do in the game. If you're the first person out, you could be out in an hour, or you could be out in 3 hours. If you're the second or third person out, you could be in there for like 4 to 5. But if you make it into the top half of an 8-man, like that can go for a good like 5 to 7, maybe even 8 longer hours.
Do they usually get called before? Do they usually get called before it hits the 250 limit?
Oh yeah, I've never seen a game go past.
People hit space. Like new to mediocre players will hit space long before turn 250.
Yeah, you have to intentionally delay stuff or like do everything in the game to max out to 250.
What about speed? I was talking to Canuck about it. See, people ever play like Speed Civ, and he's mentioned something. Maybe you're familiar with it that caught on later in Civ 3. There was a Speed Civ mod. I don't know exactly what. If you guys are familiar with that at all.
The closest thing to that, if I'm thinking the right thing, is the Team Liquid mod. But that is so far to the right, it's just way too fast.
What does it do? It just has a super fast turn timer?
No, well, yeah, but there's a dynamic turn timer, but the tiles give so much more. It makes the general snowball from classical era impossible to counter.
I think I just meant with the standard rules, but with like if anybody ever plays it with just a really fast turn timer, like 45 seconds or a minute or something where you have to just.
Oh man, you'd never see anyone war.
No, there's just too much shit to do. I could see like a 45-second base on a dynamic turn timer. Like depending on the number of cities and units you have, it would increase. But
actually, I would. From my experience modding timer was better to have a large base and like not scale super hard.
I just like to see it where you would discourage microing because you have to use the governors because you just don't have time to sit there and go, okay, this is a 3 and 2. I'm going to do it like something where you couldn't do that and you have to think
not where people spend most of their time microing. Like you may lock in like the first 1 or 2 tiles of your city to secure that growth tile that the governor is not working for some stupid reason, but like I'd say most people are spending their time microing in a meta fashion. They're checking other players' stats. They're reading like details about the like how much people are getting and trying to predict what they're going to be doing in the next like 10, 20, 30 turns. And at least that's what I see in the streams of like the top players. Philly doesn't spend a lot of time managing workers. He will if like he thinks like, oh, I need to get this wonder up. But rarely do you see players go to every single city and manage every single tile.
So how much would that shake things up if you, not that it's ever going to happen, if you did have and people started playing a lot with that, you can't look at the score screen. How much that, because that's a big skill that people have, just bouncing around. This guy has this. If that was all gone, how much would that shake things up? If you didn't have any of that,
things up a lot, but it would put a lot of people on their back toes. People would have to be a lot more defensively. Can't be fiction.
The problem is it would punish the hell out of people with bad computers.
It would also punish the hell out of people who don't know the game still, even more so than it already does. At least everyone is on a equal information footing right now. Everyone has access to the same amount of stats in theory, but even that's not true, because you can go like I was saying earlier, like sometimes I have to go look at players' territory to figure out what they're heading towards. Or it's like, do they have iron? Do they have horses? Do they have niter? Like these things matter when I'm looking at their actual stats to determine what I think they're trying to do in the next 10, 20 turns.
Or if you could just hide. I think it would be nice if you could hide for a while. You had some skill where even though you meet somebody, they still don't show up as, they still like a question mark for some time. If you research, that would be interesting, like for some period of time. So you run into the guy, but you don't still get to see his score for another 40 turns because you researched some kind of Diplo. I think that would be interesting. Instead of right away you see it, now you have everybody like maybe two or three guys are just still like mysterious because they researched something, and so you were like, is that guy like, which is Philly that guy, or is this guy? I think that would be interesting.
I think it would be interesting to bring in diplomatic visibility and spying into that mechanic, but I can't see it being time based.
And do you guys have any idea what they're going to do for the expansion pack? Like, does anybody have any?
They're lock and key on that, and there's NDAs all over it.
We heard something about Southeast. I thought we heard about Southeast Asia or something.
That was hinted at on the Steam community profile, but nothing's come from it. We got Nubia instead.
What would you guys like to see? Not for civs, but just for new game mechanics or new units or new victory conditions. Is there a couple things that come to mind, like you'd like to see this if you could?
I'd like to see teams and team games spawn closer to their teammates instead of be all helter-skelter.
I'd like to see nerfs to particular great peoples. And
looking at you, Newton.
What about like new
Einstein?
What about new units or just new? It's any kind of new game mechanic you would like to see, or just?
I don't want to see new stuff. I don't want to see new stuff. I want to see what they actually have currently function the way it's intended to. Too many games focus on new thing. It's called feature creep. You get stuck in the new, and you just keep developing new stuff, and you never actually go back and fix bugs or test or balance. And if like we've seen it now 4 patches in a row, every time a new civ comes in, they're super OP, and they bring some bugs and interesting mechanics with them. And I like, as much as I love new civs, I would really like to see I'd rather see one that's a little bit more bland and brings some balance changes and some bug fixes with them.
You mentioned that. Now, this is something that Blizzard's finally done in Diablo 3, which is infamous for power creep. And that's in their next patch. They picked one spec, and they're like, okay, that's the baseline. We need to raise everything to the baseline. But we got to keep it unique to what it is. That's what Firaxis needs to do with the civs in Civ 6. Each civ is unique in its own way. It excels at what its unique identity is for. But they need to be brought to a baseline to where they're all good. To where it's not, oh look, my draft was Germany, Spain, and France. Well, obviously I'm not picking at least 2 of those.
Yeah, but I understand. They're never gonna. Because it's so single player weighted. They're never gonna. I don't think spend enough time to when they come out where they're going to be perfectly balanced. I think that's just always going to be.
I'm not talking about perfect. I'm just talking about it's not hard to change a couple numbers. And honestly, I doubt most single players would even notice if a lot of these changes happened.
I mean, the people that play one game a week, over the course of several days, they're not going to notice these changes as much. Unless, they're diehard Scythia fans and, oh man, I can't sell my duplicated horse for full value anymore.
Newton doesn't
There must be something. You guys, I understand you, but I'm just saying, like, take your competitive gamer hat off and say, like, just what would you like to see in the expansion? Not factoring in that it might break something, but just something cool you'd like to see, maybe from past Civ games, or just something that you think would be cool to see in the game. Not take away the fact that it might.
Wonders that are clearly not that good. Like, from a single player standpoint as well, some of the wonders just aren't that good. And I'd like to see them change to be made good again.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's a couple natural wonders and a couple man-made wonders that are just... Why do you build them at all? Like, there's only, like, 2 wonders early game and 2 wonders in the... Like, 1 in the mid-game and a couple in the late game that you'd want to build. And then there's Mausoleum and... whatever the other one is that
Venetian Arsenal.
Yeah, Venetian.
You have Colosseum, which is pretty good.
Yep. Apadana.
Apadana is pretty much mandatory if people are going to keep city-states alive. I mean,
the rest are
wonders,
like
but
optional.
the rest aren't that great. Like,
I'd like to see something like a, cause all the Great Prophet does, he does start a religion, but it would be nice to see if there was another great unit for the religion that would do something in game, not just that one, something else that would be really powerful.
Wolf priests.
Something like religiously that would be, because all they do now is, which is big, they make a religion, but that's the only thing, and then that's done. There's no more great.
That reminds me, there was a wonder in Civ 3, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but every 4 turns in the city it was built in, it spawned a Crusader unit, which was a slightly stronger swordsman. There was nothing special or fancy about it. It produced the swordsman for free every 4 turns.
That's insane.
It was religiously centered. I mean, there wasn't a whole religion thing back in Civ 3, but you could easily say, hey, you need to, use missionaries or something to help build it or some shit. I don't know.
Also, I guess I'd like to see one new victory condition would be cool.
What would it be though?
I'm just think it'd be cool to have something. I'm not sure what it would.
I mean, you're talking about messing with the core of Forex strategy yields, like culture, science, production, food, and money. Those 5 are the core mechanics in countless Forex games.
Maybe even like a new. I guess this was gonna be breaking even more. Like a new resource would be cool, but that's like a major. But I don't tend to worry so much about it, because in here we can always just say you can't do that. I mean, we can fix things just by saying you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to use that victory condition. You can't do this.
That's not always true. We've definitely come into situations like take for example the nuke bug that's happened, and we talked to Firaxis, and they confirmed that the actual intended behavior is that you are supposed to be able to nuke your allies, but it's supposed to be an automatic war declaration. So the bug itself isn't that you can nuke your allies or your friends, it's that it doesn't declare war. And then because you're still friends and allies afterwards, they can't declare war on you. This is not a situation where you can just say, this is a situation where we have to say, don't do what the game makers intended. You're not allowed to war your friendships. Now, this is putting aside all like moral debates and whether this is healthy for the community. The point is we have to remove a game mechanic because it's not working as intended.
And what's the freeze? How long is the freeze time before you can declare war when you're friends with somebody?
It's until the end of the friendship or the alliance alliance.
It's like 30 turns.
That is the sole purpose of declaring friends with someone or to become, but not allies. Allies, you get
I thought
vision.
it wears off. At least in a single player, you do it, and like at some point you get a message. Oh, you're no longer friends with this person.
Yeah, that's 30, your friendship lasts 30 turns, but then you're no longer friends.
No, I guess.
Believe me, if someone doesn't renew your friendship contract in FFA, you better have already built a military. Because honestly, they probably would have continued the friendship if you had built a military.
And then I'm still hoping some of these can be fixed with. I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people making cool mods that we're just not even aware of because they're just not in this community, or maybe we're not going to the right sites that people post their mods on, or I don't. There's got to be more mods than I'm finding out about that we're just not seeing some reason.
Go browse the Steam Workshop. Things come out occasionally, but one thing I would like to see is I'd love to. I think there's a Game of Thrones mod, and I want to host a game of that some weekend when my roommate's out. Use his computer.
Harambe, he has it.
Nice. Yeah, I totally will. I'll get that going in the next month.
Units, but it's renaming the units like to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and great people are like people from Game of Thrones. It's modeled after Westeros, I think. And
so what's
religion names and
I'm sure this is
stuff.
This is like a hornet's nest I'm bringing up, but what's up with the great generals? Apparently that you're not. I know you're not supposed to stack them, and apparently the doesn't seem to think it's a big deal. They don't want to fix it, but is it really? Can you think of that places where it's not totally broken, or it's just totally broken that you just can't stack them? There's no good to stacking them. You're saying?
I mean, it's just I think it's unhealthy because if someone can do it, they should do it, and if someone can't do it, then they're going to get screwed by the person who can, because that person should do it every time.
But is it
There's
totally? Is it
no alternative? I mean, yeah, man. Like we're talking.
So
we're talking about a 25% damage increase on essentially on most units from the classical era. That's insane.
Broken,
and
whereas like
33% movement increase.
Is it so broken where if you stack 3 and I have to stack 2 that it's like I'm just totally screwed?
Yeah, now we're talking 50%.
His reinforcements will arrive a turn faster than yours at least. But I mean,
at least, and that's if you're not stacking.
Problem, right, that makes general stacking wrong, all right, regardless on how you want to discuss the healthiness of it.
Or what if you could,
Firaxis confirmed that it was an unintended thing, it was never supposed to happen, and their direct answer to us after saying that was, see Great Admirals, you cannot stack them. Just showing that the intention was they were not to be stackable.
But they're not, so everybody's just confused why they're not fixing it. They
pretty much
will fix it. What if you could kill, like in Civ 4, you could kill the Great General? Would that change it?
No, it gets
like you could stack them, but now you can kill them. But then that would make them less OP, right? If you could actually kill them.
Not really.
No,
you still have to get through all the units to get to them. Yeah, I mean,
like let's
Great
say
Generals have quite a bit of movement.
Worst case scenario, I'm playing Rome. My legions have 4 more combat strength than your swordsmen already. And to make it worse, I have 3 great generals with my legions. So now I have plus 19 combat strength over your swordsmen. That's assuming I didn't time this for when I hit oligarchy, knowing you didn't have it yet. Because if you don't have oligarchy and I do, that's another 4. You only need a difference of 30 to one-shot a unit.
So it's so important that it's like a race. So even if 2 top players, the guy that gets the 3 generals before the 2 is gonna usually win. Is it that? It's that powerful.
There's only 3 great generals for each era. So as soon as the first 3 classicals go out, it automatically kicks to the medieval generals. So if someone is allowed to scoop those generals, it's pretty much game over for anyone near him.
Yeah, I mean, if I just immediately go mining bronze projects, if I have higher production than all but like one other person, I'm almost guaranteed to get 1, if not 2 generals.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
That's if it's allowed. Everybody's just gonna. That's the thing. It's just a race to get the general.
That's what we experienced. That was how the game was played for many months. Is you rushed Great General and you had no choice, and it was actually interesting because it had a lot of when we first instituted the Great General nerfs / bans and started playing around with the ideas, is we started seeing Diplo games become a lot more popular, and I feel like that's because Great Generals just encourage war, and with Great Generals gone or not as easily accessible, you start seeing players turn to other methods of play to increase their early game power. But it also had some interesting aspects of making the early game civs like Rome, Aztecs, even more powerful because they don't need a general to have their classical era push mean something, and they already got that bonus on legions.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not. I didn't play a lot of Civ 5, and so I'm still not. I guess I just never. Because back in Civ 4 days, that the general I think only made the guy that you were on more powerful. It didn't have this range, like 2 range everywhere. So I guess I'm still sort of thinking in that world. That's the way the Civ 4 one. Yeah, it just made one unit more powerful. It didn't have like a zone of, which is it's pretty cool. But yeah, it does. I believe you guys now that it's completely broken.
Yeah, and we have the new rule where you can vote for that you can keep them in. You have to keep them in your borders, which to me it brings them back into the game. I hate that an entire mechanic got eliminated by our initial bans.
So it makes it so it makes it so it's easier to defend. You're not going to get taken out as fast if you got that Great General in this zone.
That's part of it, but you can use them in a semi-offensive way if you're sharing borders. So that means things like I've seen players invest in a settler, so they go forward settle right as they're declaring war, but their border's up right against their new enemy, and that's got a little bit of a risk to it as well. It's a lot more. You're tossing a lot more production into that push for that settler.
But absolutely no stacking. That's just never allowed because it's just too broken.
I mean, players could vote it in, but I don't think I've ever seen it get voted into a game.
It won't. It's too unhealthy for the gameplay, and that's
I think I played Epic. I didn't believe. I was foolish, and I said I don't believe I played Epic Cow. He just wrecked me with that. He had like a swordsman with like 3 generals, and I was like, okay, I guess I understand why. It was pretty. Yeah, but I had to experience, I guess, the pain to realize how broken it was.
Yep. I can understand that perspective.
Now, on the flip side of the coin, with that keeping it in your territory. Now, I've seen someone buy out the 3 tiles.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to bring up. I've seen that happen.
And here's the Great Merchant. So
you get like
tiles. So I saw Blade with a general. I shit you not, like 7 tiles away from his city, but he had it within his territory borders.
When I was casting the CCC, I think it was a 3v3, Harambe got a general, and I like talked to him afterwards, and he was like, because I predicted that he was going to take that maneuver because he got the Great Merchant. We were like, oh man, he's going to buy out these 3 tiles, and then he's going to use the Great Merchant to get out these ones, and then he's going to have his general within range to overlap with that Lixie's cap. And I talked to him afterwards because he didn't do it, and he was like, yeah, we were going to do something like that. We didn't have that exact plan, but it's really interesting because it takes not just the investment of the projects or the encampment to get the Great General. Now it takes that, like, buying 2 or 3 tiles can be significant when you're talking about upgrading pre-builds in an early game push, and so can that settler production when you're trying to do a night, even all the way up to a night push.
Do you guys prefer you allowing Great Generals but classic, but let them keep them in your border in the classical age? That you think that's the best way to do it?
That's my preference,
because it doesn't eliminate an entire game mechanic,
and it restricts it enough.
A lot of dynamic to the gameplay, I feel,
and it restricts the power enough.
Mirrors, you can move them outside, but not in the classical.
Yeah, once you get past classical, it's free game. It doesn't matter at that point because everyone's had 20 to 40 turns to work on their territory and settle some cities and get themselves to the points where they can compete for that if they really feel like they need to. Often players will invest in other things at that point.
Are people using like forts a lot? Is that a mechanic that people are using a lot?
I mean, don't you have to get to military engineers if you're not Rome?
I don't know the require. I just wonder if people are. I haven't really used it. I just wonder if that comes up a lot. People are building a bunch of forts to protect their important
Rome
areas,
does.
or if it's not used.
That's about it. Rome.
Tactic, because they get a bonus for forts or something.
Legions can build forts.
Oh, okay. There's still that one thing that's broken that you're not supposed to. There's a one civ where you're only supposed to get a bonus if you have 2 hoplites next to each other, but it gives it with just 1 hoplite or something. Is that still broken?
I can't remember if hoplites are still broken or not. I know that we communicated that bug to Fraxis, but we've been
give it the bonus no matter what, even if you only had one of them. It was giving the bonus.
Yeah, the league in general hasn't been complaining about that pretty much ever, and in fact, I think most players didn't notice. A, because hoplites aren't super frequently used, and B, it's like at least before the recent additions to the Greases, Greece wasn't in the top tier civs. Now we've got Gorgo getting envoys off of Acropolis and still getting crazy culture per turn, and still getting culture off Warring, and she's pretty crazy now. But I think mostly now it's just we don't see it as OP as it may seem. And then beyond that, if you're Greece, you're probably not going to get attacked just because you have the hoplites, even if they didn't get that.
And so, Ripped Panda, you were saying you're getting more back into playing more now, Civ 6 more now, or is that what you're like? Are you? Or
okay, I still get to play a lot during the week,
but you're kind of ramping up to play more in the future. Is that what you're?
Probably not too much more than I play now. I'd like to focus. It's and part of that is staying in touch with the community. That means playing games, but there's a lot of work to do, and some of it's I'm the only person right now who can do it. That could definitely change. I would love to see other developers come in and start fiddling with the bots and even working on the website. But
so you are the man that came up with that made bots, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty huge. And you said there's gonna be, so in the future it's gonna be like you're not gonna have to have humans reporting the games. There's gonna be a bot that's gonna make a bot that does that.
I hesitate to put any time period on it now, but the end goal would be to have a bot that when you type in your names in Discord and you hit mention, and the new website is going to have your Discord account tied to your website account. There will be technically separate accounts, but you can't have one without the other. And that then when you mention, the game goes through, you hit the draft, I can create a mod that using the Steam API that will allow me to open up your Civ game in response to a command that my bot emits from Discord, and then you'll auto join it just like you do when you hit join game off someone's Steam profile. And
ultimately it'll be where all the admins and mods don't have to spend much time entering all the games.
Oh no, that's something I tried to limit, but we had some mixed results with that bot because it still required some manual data input. But down the road, once we have unique accounts actually tied to the stats between Discord and online, it'll just be a matter of all the players in a particular game going in and saying, yeah, I was in this game, I approve this report, and then it will automatically get processed by a bot.
Okay, well, that's good. So there's some exciting things going to be happening in the next so many. I'm not gonna put a time on there to make because I'm not gonna do that to you. Well, you said it was gonna be no, but in the future there's exciting things happening. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get me on here again possibly even one of the web devs at some point once we start approaching those days sooner. Especially once we start bringing in some of the more like mods and bots that would interact directly with the game or your computers themselves. Like, I'm not going to tell any of you to go download.
Right.
Actually explained all of it and exactly what it does and how to look at what it does and how to understand what it does. Because like the bots, like I do my best to not track any data. It's gone within a couple hours if you don't like actually use the vote. But there's a lot to do.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight, Ripped. I really appreciate it. I'm sure Louis does as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
With that, we are going to wrap up tonight's podcast. I hope everyone who was watching had a great time tuning in. And if you didn't get to see it live, it will be on the CPL community YouTube channel as well as my personal one. So be sure to check it out and leave some comments in the videos as well. I do look through them, and I do select my guests for the next week possibilities from people who are active in chat or in the comments. So be sure to stay tuned, make the comments, and you might be the next guest.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
See you later, guys. Next week.